Hello and welcome to a further video in our XCAPI series of instructional videos. Today, this video that we will present to you deals with the settings of the new XCAPI Test Tool. This test tool enables immediate testing of XCAPI after you have successfully installed it and configured it. And in this video, we will focus on the changes compared with the old test tool. With the XCAPI Test Tool, you can check your provider or your PBX for communications without installing your application or before you install your application. For successful operation of the test tool, you need to have installed and configured XCAPI, which is connected to a configured network environment. You do not need a license to test XCAPI. The XCAPI Test Tool is automatically installed with every installation of XCAPI. You can find the test tool in the XCAPI installation directory or in the start links. Before testing connectivity, select the desired controller under Options. You can find this controller again in the corresponding order in the XCAPI configuration. This controller must be active in the XCAPI configuration. Otherwise, you do not need to make any changes in the configuration. It is important that the XCAPI Test Tool can always test just with one controller for outgoing calls. By default, the XCAPI Test Tool selects the first controller from the XCAPI configuration in the case of multiple active controllers. For incoming calls, all controllers available in XCAPI can now be used. For fax transmission, you specify the fax ID and the transmission rate under fax. We recommend you leave the settings at automatic so that the maximum possible transmission rate is selected. The XCAPI Test Tool initiates a fax call in fax mode, and XCAPI initiates the call and then switches to fax mode. Sometimes certain SIP endpoints require a different approach. The outgoing establishment allows control over how a call is made and whether a CNG tone or calling tone is sent. Normally, the default setting should be used here. Depending on the programming of the application that will be used later after you're done with the test tool, calls are started immediately as a fax call. However, it's also possible to start the call as a voice call and then switch to fax. In certain test scenarios, you may want to send the CNG tone from the application, then select the fourth option, Start with Voice, No CNG. The fax is generated by XCAPI, and all other options can be set in XCAPI at this point. In addition, incoming fax polling requests can also be accepted here. Under Audio, you can play a preset audio file on call acceptance. A new option gives you the possibility to enable audio before the call is connected. For example, authentication options for calls to foreign countries are possible. In addition, you can now select the audio device that will process the incoming audio. You can now forward the incoming audio signal to a desired audio device in order to judge the voice quality. Another change can be found under Special. XCAPI can deal with two sender phone numbers: the phone number that you want to signal and the phone number that you want to signal to the provider so that the call is accepted by the provider. At this point, additional codecs can be tested, but they must be installed in XCAPI. By default, the test tool selects no specific codec, and XCAPI negotiates the codec based on the configuration. If a codec is specified, it'll be used. If a codec is specified that is not configured, it will be ignored. The XCAPI Test Tool has an easy-to-use interface. You receive one tab per connection test, which you can also change during a running test. If you want to receive calls, please do not exceed the maximum number of channels available for licenses here. A channel is only free when the connection has been terminated. You can get an empty tab by clicking on New Tab. To save some space, the menu can be hidden with this arrow. Depending on the setting, the default audio file is played. This can also be started manually or repeated. If necessary, you can record the voice connection to check both audio directions.
2, 3.
With transfer, you have the chance to test the call transfer function. If there is only one call, a blind transfer is carried out automatically without any further interference. If there is another call, there is the possibility for an attended transfer. An attended transfer always takes place between two already established calls. A further new feature is the possibility to check the quality of the connection using the graphical display of the quality of the RTP data. Shown here are runtime fluctuations, i.e. jitter, and packet loss. In the Call Details tab, additional information can be displayed even after the call ends. For example, the used codec. You can send a fax using the fax function. The XCAPI Test Tool provides ready-to-use test fax documents. Here you have the choice between two resolutions, low and fine. We recommend that you start the fax test with a simple low setting. Complex creates graphics with dithering effect. This achieves a finer representation. Killer fine is the highest quality level if a test with a very long transmission time is desired. In this case, a fax with black and white dots one after the other will be sent. The transmission time should be around 20 minutes at a speed of 14.4. In addition, with the settings Simple Mixed or Complex Mixed, it's possible to send 2 pages in the resolutions low and fine. The XTest tool can also receive faxes. The built-in fax switch detects the calling fax tone and automatically switches from voice to fax at the first beep. The received fax data is displayed in real time in a preview. The XCAPI report is great for quick call analysis and contains all the previous calls. By clicking on Show SIP Messages, even the individual SIP messages can be displayed. In many cases, this saves additional activation of a trace in XCAPI. If the report gets too big, you can easily delete it with Clear. We are now at the end of this instructional video, and we thank you for your time and attention. Have a wonderful day.